What's up, guys? Welcome to the Yak Chat, episode number 14, where we talk about all things kayaks, all things fishing, all the time. My name is Jay with Bearded Dad Fishing, and I'm glad you're here with us today. So this podcast streams live on YouTube and is available on demand on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So if you're watching live, we want to hear your questions, comments, and of course, those smart remarks. If you're listening later on, make sure you drop a review wherever you're listening. That helps us out a ton. Now, if you're anything like me, you've certainly daydreamed about fishing for a living, or at the very least, fishing a work-related job or working a fishing-related job. So it comes with the territory of loving a hobby that eventually turns into a passion. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. And we're joined by an awesome guest who has been living this full-time fishing life for a bit now. She's known for putting down the hurt, and not just in kayak bass tournaments, but in boats as well. She's worked with a large assortment of your favorite brands and continues to make waves in the fishing industry. In case you don't know who I'm talking about, Kristine Fischer is joining us, and we're super excited to chat with her. She'll be on in just a minute and tell us what it takes to make a living out of fishing. Again, this is an interactive show, so if you're watching live, get your questions ready, as well as those dad jokes, because at the end of the show, we're going to go over all the submitted dad jokes in our funny or crummy segment. Of course, before we jump into our topic, shout out to our premier sponsor, Lead Time. Lead Time Lithium has been powering my kayak setup this entire season. I've been rocking their 100 amp hour smart battery and loved it. I got their 50 amp hour smart battery, brand new. They just released on the way as well to power my electronics. If you don't already have Bluetooth on your lithium batteries, you're missing out because it's incredibly useful. And they're some of the best priced batteries on the market. As usual, their link is in the show notes down below. So make sure you guys check them out. And if you're going to buy something, BDF6 at checkout for 6% off your entire order. Of course, we want to thank Humble Imprints as well, the custom apparel sponsor of the Yak Chat. Humble Imprints creates custom t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, you name it, anything with your business or club logo on it. And the best part, 10% of the net proceeds benefits children and families in the foster care system. So check them out at humbleimprints.com. Quick update on the Knucklehead Bass Fishing Series. It's officially wrapped up for 2024. August 31st was the last day of the series, and now the teams are officially decided for the championship on October 5th and 6th in Alabama. So I'll pull it up on the screen, but if you guys are listening and not watching, I will read it out to you guys. We got the team officially decided. Of course, myself, and we got Mac Toon, who won in May. We got Jonathan Miller, who won in June. Jacob Tomlin, who won in July. And now we got Rick Peters, who won in August. And if anyone deserves this spot more than Rick Peters, I'd like to meet him, because if you guys are looking, you see that Rick Peters came in second place in May, second place in June, and in July. And he took the W in August, which is really cool. Followed by Larry Stroman with a strong 97 3/4 inch and Alex Pers with 85 3/4 inch. So I will be updating you guys on the socials as we move closer to the time and date of the Knucklehead Bass Fishing Series. So now that that's out of the way, I want to introduce, of course, we got Juan Orta joining us, and we got Miss Kristine Fischer. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Like I said earlier, I feel like I'm kind of, the eyeball out here without the really nice, well-groomed beard. But
that's right. You just got to pull the hair again to the side.
Yep. There it is.
It's part of, I can't change it anymore now since it's Bearded Dad Fishing. Like if I take it off, I lose the identity.
That's so true. And they're great beards. I don't think y'all should ever get rid of those.
No.
Yeah, it's definitely an identity now. It's like a part of the persona. I had to trim it down one time, and I was like, I don't like this guy. So yeah, never.
I don't know. My daughter, who's 9, asked me the other day if I know what my chin looks like. I was like, I don't. I don't remember. It's been a really long time.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Oh man. So Kristine, how's the fishing been lately?
You guys, it's been so dang good. Just a little backstory where I'm at right now. It's one of my favorite areas in the entire country. And this is my first, what I would consider actual vacation all year. actually in quite a long time. So up here in northern Wisconsin and up closer to the UP, very close to Michigan, fishing around. I've been coming up here for 7 years, about 1 to 3 weeks every single summer. And this is kind of the only time during the year that I pencil off, keep for myself. I don't really worry about any content or sponsor obligations or tournaments. It just literally is me coming up here and just fishing for me and enjoying what I like to do and getting a little bit of a reset in the Northwoods.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
so you don't do the content, you just like go fish.
Yeah. I mean, every once in a while, I'll run my GoPros just because you never know when something really cool is going to happen. Like I did get on a pretty crazy punching bite with smallmouth, and I've shared some of that, but the rest of the days, I run GoPros, but I just delete all the footage, after the end of the day. And just even, I've had a couple 26, 27 pound smallmouth days, and I probably won't even share much of that because that's kind of for me. So
yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Are there any, because I know you love your muskie. Are there any muskie in that area?
Yes, there is. I'm actually going to do some muskie stuff tomorrow.
Awesome.
Nice. Are you doing it all from the kayak or off the boat?
Yep, all from the kayak. So one thing I've learned, it's really hard to get the kayak and boat to the same place.
Okay.
So I can't travel with both of them. So I've got the kayaks up here.
I think Mike Iaconelli does the kayak on the truck and then trailers the boat wherever he goes.
Well, I think when he does that, he's not kayak fishing very much because putting a PA-14, especially Mike's not very tall. I don't know how he even does that in the first place, but especially mine that's kind of fully loaded and has all the stuff on it. I'm not putting that on the top of my truck.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
That's a lot of weight.
Yeah. Too much.
Speaking of, congratulations on the new truck for the Toyota series.
Yeah, that was very it's a pinch me moment. I'm very grateful to be part of that initiative and part of that team kind of moving forward for the women's fishing deal. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's awesome. That just dropped somewhat recently, right?
Yeah. So I signed with Toyota several months ago, but they started promoting it here within the last month or two.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congrats.
Thank you guys. Yeah, it's pretty neat. I'm hoping that with that, there'll be more opportunities, maybe not just even for women, but for kayak anglers too. I'm always trying to help get eyes on our sport and let people see that there's a lot of value in kayak anglers because we use trucks more than anybody, I think, to transport kayaks and throw them in the bed of the truck, and we're truck people. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I didn't get a truck until I got into the kayak thing and I took it more seriously. So you're absolutely right. 100%.
Yeah. And we sell way more kayaks than there are bass boats sold in the country. I think it's an outrageous statistic, like the amount of kayaks versus bass boats that are sold. So there's actually way more kayak anglers than bass boat anglers.
Wow. That's interesting.
True. Wow. Cool, man. So to jump into a little bit of the conversation, obviously a lot of people know you, right? And I posted a link to this, by the way, on our Facebook group, and it blew up, and guys are sharing pictures of you, like the pictures they took with you, like at events and all this stuff. So anyways, you're popular with the kayak fishing dads.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
for the people that don't know, can you just share like a little snapshot of how you got into fishing and like when did it become your passion?
Yeah, so that's an easy answer. And I think a lot of it I owe to my family. I was very fortunate to be brought into an extremely outdoors oriented family, not just my mom and dad, my grandma, my grandpa. It was such a way of life for us. And I grew up, we camped all over the country. We went up to the Boundary Waters for 2 weeks every single year. My grandpa took my dad up, my dad took us. And we grew up fishing family walleye tournaments. And one of the really unique things about my upbringing is usually you see the dad and the grandpa fishing, taking the boys out. But when I grew up, my mom was as just an avid of an angler as my dad and my grandpa. And my grandma would even go out on the boat. She'd read a book usually, but my mom was casting and fishing. And so for me to see her actively partaking in that through my entire upbringing, her wanting to be on the water and doing it, unhooking the fish, rigging her own baits up, doing all those things, it just was almost second nature for me. And I thought it was a very normal thing. It wouldn't be until later in life that I realized that, my mom fishing was a little different. So that's kind of how I got into it. And it was just a way of life for me. We grew up without a television. That's another kind of interesting thing that people find about my upbringing is we've never had a TV in our house. So, and I to this day don't own a TV. I've never had one in any of the houses that I've ever had. Now in Tennessee I do, but I Airbnb it. So I threw one up in the living room for people to, but I've never had it on really. So we were always outside. And I, like many of us, I had no idea, when I was 18 years old and we're supposed to know what we want to do for the rest of our lives. I was a very outside the box thinker. I'm in a family of all entrepreneurs. So we kind of do things a little differently. And the whole go to college, get a degree, spend all this money and be buried in student debt was just not something that I really subscribed to. Even at that age, I questioned almost everything. So I, ended up playing college volleyball and then bounced around to a few different colleges, did online courses because I really got so bored in school and ended up getting a job out of college at Shields, which a lot of people in the Midwest will be really familiar with. And I got a job up in hunting and fishing as a salesperson there. And at that time, I was the only female in the entire company that was up in hard goods for years. So, and that is where I kind of had a lot of the, learned very quickly that it was kind of a male dominated area. And I had to deal with customers that didn't want to get sales advice from me or get any product advice from me. And, but it would be there when I was working at the archery shop on somebody's bow that someone brought in a kayak fishing flyer. And I had kayak fished before. This was probably 9-10 years ago now. And that night, this is going to lend to my spontaneity. I got on Craigslist and I bought a used Jackson kayak from Marty Hughes, which a lot of people, I had no idea who Marty Hughes was, but I saw this Jackson fishing kayak on Craigslist, bought it for him for $800 and entered that tournament that next weekend, I think it was. And I got third. And that was kind of just my, there was like 50 guys there. And I remember pulling up to that and I fell in love with it and kind of started fishing all the local stuff. Eventually started qualifying for some bigger stuff, and the rest is kind of history.
Wow. And how long ago was it that first kayak tournament?
I think it was 9 years now.
Ooh, okay. And that was like the thing that did it for you.
Yes, it was just literally jumping into that local tournament. And I loved it because I'm a very competitive person. I always have been, the college sports thing, board games. I mean, you name it. I'm very, very competitive and I love to fish and I love the outdoors. Before I fished that bass tournament, I was taking a little wreck kayak and going and catching trophy pike and muskies all over the Midwest, Nebraska. I would, throw a kayak on top of my old SUV I used to have, drive out west, camp by myself and just pike fish for days and days on end and then come back, for work. I had several jobs at the time. I was working at Shields. I taught Pilates part-time and I guided some fishing trips and then spring turkey hunts. So I was doing and bartended. I had like 4 jobs at that time. So I did a lot of odd and end things but always made the time to go and do some fishing.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's what's up. So Miss Muskie, would you say that's your favorite fish?
Easily.
You bass fish? Yeah, I could tell. Yeah.
Easily. Yeah. In the winter, when I get my downtime, I get like 1 month when I'm not running all over the place. I built my house in an area that's very close to my river muskie fishing so that that's kind of my decompressing time. I go muskie fish. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, I want to go to a cabin in the mountains and sit there and watch Netflix. I'm like, no, I want to be on the river chucking pounders till my shoulders fall off. That's how I relax.
It's crazy because I'm like following you now. I'm kind of used to now annually kind of this, end of the year, new year kind of scenario where, especially last year with the Lynx, you were those muskie. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah,
so
it's my favorite.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So speaking about muskie, what's up with that muskie that bit you? I mean, the Susky.
Your guess is as good as mine. I can't even explain what happened. I guess I had it coming because I've dealt with muskies for 20 plus years now and have never had a freak accident. And that was an extra angry fish.
And huge too.
Yeah, it was a big one. And I was actually telling I met a gal up here that I've actually followed on social media for a long time that guides muskies. And I went to a restaurant last night and she was there. So we had this kind of across the bar moment. We're like, wait a minute, I know you. So I showed her, I have a scar on my knee from that. It's like an S.
That's kind of cool though. That's a cool scar.
Oh, I was
Yeah.
praying. I actually didn't want it to heal properly because I wanted it to scar because I thought that
Yeah.
would be the coolest thing.
Yeah. Stuff some
cool.
fish guts and some worm in there to get the scar built up nice.
Oh yeah, you know, you can take those butterfly band-aids and what? So we never went to the hospitals growing up. My dad was we had a big gashes. Like he's like, oh, let's put a butterfly band-aid. We don't need stitches. So that's kind of my mentality. And I remembered that I have these scars because we just use these, you know, these little band-aids instead of getting stitches. So I just used a regular band-aid, didn't push it together or anything. I was like, this is totally gonna scar, and it did.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Man. So to jump in a little bit to the conversation about full-time fishing, when did you, or can you say that you started like, all right, this is when you started full-time? And I guess what was the moment that you said to yourself, hey, I can do this full-time?
So that is it's going to be kind of a multi-level answer to that. So at the time, let's see, I was teaching Pilates full-time. I was self-employed. So I made my own schedule. I had started fishing some national tournaments. So I would drive to like Gunnersville and Kentucky Lake because I wanted to get better. And I knew that in order to compete with these guys, I had to get experience outside of the Midwest. And I was dating a guy at the time that was a rep and traveled a lot. And so I ended up, you know, making the decision. I started at that point, this was probably, 8 years ago now, I believe. 8 years ago. I had grown a small, I mean, I wouldn't say small, but it was an average social media following. I had a couple of product sponsors. I had no cash sponsors at the time, but I was getting some product. I was getting a little bit of traction with all of that, putting some content out there. And I decided we were going to go on the road together. And this would lead me to have to quit my job. It's a huge risk at the time because I did pretty well teaching Pilates. I was very comfortable. I owned a townhome in Nebraska. I ended up selling all my furniture, everything that I had. Long-term rental, and I quit my job and went on the road with my then partner I was with. And that was really difficult for me because, like I said, I had held down 2 to 4 jobs since I was 18 years old. I've always been kind of a hustler. I've always worked a lot and provided for myself. You know, I wasn't, my family, you know, I don't come from a whole lot. So it was one of those deals where I paid for my own college. I kind of have always been conditioned to working and providing for myself, putting a roof over my head and holding down multiple jobs to make that happen. When I went on the road and had to quit my job, it was really, really challenging for me. And I was trying to find work that I could do on the road while trying to fish tournaments and get better at the competitive game. So I'd always done some freelance writing like in my past. And I remember my first year on the road, just scrambling, what can I do remote? Because I remember the landscape 8 years ago. Now there's so much work you can do remote, but it wasn't that way 8 years ago. So I was writing almost for nothing. I'd get articles that, you know, I should have charged hundreds of dollars for. I mean, I'm talking like 2,500 to 5,000 word articles for these larger publications. I was getting my hands on every single writing gig I could possibly get and just writing for all these outdoor publications, doing gear reviews. And I wasn't even able to write what I was passionate about because I needed to just make money at that point. So I did that for several years. Kept building, kept putting content up there. And that the opportunity of being on the road and traveling to all these places allowed me to kind of continue to build my social media, to do content, to have experiences all over the country. But about 5.5 years ago, that relationship ended. And I remember kind of being like, okay, now what? You know, because we were living in a travel trailer at the time. And I was like, what am I going to do? Because at that time I had accumulated a few paying sponsors, but it was not very much. And I remember, you know, I mean, totally honest with y'all, I remember just like dropping to my knees and asking, like, where am I supposed to go? I was praying hard on it. Where's my direction? Where am I supposed to go? I mean, this is a pretty clear sign that I should just go back home, get my stable job again. And this voice just told me that I need to stay where I'm at and it's going to all work out. And it wasn't, but a few weeks later, I got a call from one of my title sponsor now. And this was 5 years ago. And they said, hey, we see it was was right. I'd won a couple tournaments the year prior to that. They had been following me since then. And they're like, we would like to have you come to South Carolina for a meeting. And I went. And, you know, after several weeks, we'll probably get into the sponsorship thing. I take those very, very seriously. And I don't just look at a dollar amount or a benefit. I look at, it's a very, very complex process for me when I've decided to partner with somebody. And after a lot of deliberation, I ended up signing with them. And it was one of those deals that was going to allow me way more freedom and told me that I can continue to do this. And it was literally at that time where I was thinking, I'm just going to go back home. I'm going to get my house back. I'm going to start a career, maybe go back into guiding, do the Pilates thing again, get that financial stability. And I literally just prayed about it. And that opportunity came just a couple days later. And that gave me enough that I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to keep going with this and just see how many doors open, or if this is where I'm supposed to be. And it just kept happening. And then after I signed with them, I went on to win the TOC I think that was 7 months later.
Wow.
So it was just one of those deals where it all just kind of fell into place. And then, you know, from there, the last several years, it's just been, it's been so much sacrifice and so much hard work and a lot of building to get to it. But you know, the last 4 years have been the biggest blessing, and they've been so rewarding, you know, not just financially, but just I feel a lot of purpose in what I do. And that more than anything, that's what I sought to do. You know, when I taught Pilates, it was a career for me because, you know, I made good money with it. But the best thing about it was that my clients became my family, and I helped them. You know, I took two of my clients through the miscarriages and fertility issues. And I helped clients alleviate pain that they had been dealing with for years. And I knew their families and their kids, and it was just the most rewarding career for what I was able to do for those people. And I had always, you know, that was the hardest thing, is walking away from that and going into fishing, which at the time when I first started, it was a pretty selfish pursuit. I was fishing because I loved to, and I wanted it to be, you know, it was really about me and my competition and my own personal goals. And then that really left me feeling a lot of emptiness. Even though I was very successful, I won so many tournaments my first few years, and I worked really, really hard. But a lot of other areas in my life kind of started to suffer because I poured everything into my personal, very selfish goals, to be totally honest with you. And the last several years, that's all shifted. And I really had focused on the purpose in all of it. And it's insane how much more rewarding everything has been for me because of that shift. And I'm really thankful for it.
Wow.
Yeah. It's wild that sometimes like God opens the door, but just like a little bit and a little bit and a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Like you don't see the whole puzzle at first. You just see little pieces.
Yeah. It's all about that trust. And if my life is anything, and I look at all the major ups and downs and the valleys and the peaks, it has been all about trust. And I can look back and see him through all of it now, which is a really beautiful thing, you know, through all of it. So it's crazy. Tough. I know I'm meant to be here, and that's, you know, I don't know a lot. And I know that, you know, I'm not worried about tomorrow. I'm not worried about the future. We're not to do that, but I know for right now, this is where I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be doing. But I had a lot of growing to do through all of it to get to that point. And I made all the mistakes that you could possibly make, and hopefully you've learned from most of it. And you always try to, you know, remember that and have that perspective. You know, you never forget any of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. You know, and that I resonate a lot with that as far as your Pilates journey. Because you know, me and my wife went through some similar struggles, you know, trying to have a family and grow. And so that's actually how I found fishing.
Really?
Yeah, I was a musician, and during COVID, I wasn't able to do the shows that I was doing, which was just kind of like just exposure stuff with like open mics and things like that. And you know, I needed a sober outlet, and I needed to you know, fishing was a patient man's game. And so yeah, my wife, me and her went out. She put the worms on the hooks for me. it was, yeah, she had to help me take my fish off. I had to put gloves on because when I first caught my first bass, I didn't know what to do. I was like freaked out.
That's awesome.
But I got, the tug was the drug, and I've been stuck ever since. So, and it's ironic because like, kind of like you said, music was my life, my thing, everything. And it still is in a big way, but I went through a lot with that, and it's just crazy now that this journey kind of transitioned, and now it's like, kind of like what you're saying, and kind of that trust, and it's like, now look where it got me, talking to you, and it's just like, what in the world,
Mhm.
So yeah, I know, Jay, we got some more questions though. Don't want to get off topic.
No,
here.
you're good. But no, man, this is natural, and we
Yeah.
probably won't even get to all the questions, and that's totally cool.
Yeah.
But you touched on something, Kristine, that I think is really important, and that's the purpose part of it. Because I mean, I don't know a person on this earth that doesn't struggle with their purpose at one point or another, and to see that you found it in what you're doing is big time, and everybody can find that. But it does take some of that trust, and it takes some of that digging to find it,
Yeah,
sure.
and I think oftentimes with our true, I think everybody has a certain calling on their life, no matter where we're at in our journey. But I really feel that in order to answer that calling, a lot of times we have to get out of our comfort zone, and there involves a lot of risk sometimes, and a lot of that trust and jumping into the unknown. And I think that it's so important if you feel that calling, there's something somewhere that you're feeling nudged to go, that even if it sounds crazy, you gotta almost, as long as you're like, aligned with that will, you have to do it. Because I think so many of us go so long without realizing, where we're supposed to be and what our purpose might be here. We're here to be a light, right? That's like, and in anything, my outlet right now is fishing. And selfishly, I hope that one day I get to step away from social media and fall into more of like a coaching role and coach, some college fishing team, or, women's high school team or something like that. That's where I would love to see myself. But those doors aren't opening right now. And right now, everything is just pointing for me to stay right where I'm at on social media doing these things. And so I'll be here for now, but I'm hoping that one day, that's where it might lead down the road.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Cool. That's super cool.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned social media, because I got some questions about social media.
Oh.
Some people love to hate it, hate to love it. I don't personally. I don't gravitate to social media. I do it because it's almost like you're obligated if you're trying to build something, right? Yeah. Especially like on this online age.
Oh goodness, yes.
So, can you talk a little bit about the role that social media plays personally for you in helping that full time come to realization?
Yeah, and I will be brutally candid and honest here with all of that, because I think it's really important, and I always am. I'm an open book when it comes to this stuff. If anyone saw my story today, I posted like small business owners, and it was like a little like funny meme. And it was basically like, we have to have social media now to stay relevant, to grow our business. And like, what are we even doing here with our lives? And that is essentially how I feel. A lot of people may not realize this about me, because I, have a following on all these platforms, but I don't consider myself very social media savvy. But one thing that is fact is I know without a shadow of doubt that the social media presence plays a huge role in how I get to make my living and why I get to do what I do. You have to have that business side of things if you want to be able to make an actual, decent living in our space. That's just part of it. That's the way it's evolved, because at the end of the day, partnerships are a two-way thing. These companies are paying you, they're providing product and a platform for you. You have to be able to prove some sort of ROI for them, some sort of a return on their investment, and that why they want to partner with you. And social media is the easiest way to quantify ROI.
Yeah.
So now that, yes, there are so many. I mean, it's a double-edged sword with social media, right? There's pros, there's cons, there's things that we have to deal with. But at the end of the day, anybody that is looking to do this full time, that is where you have to start. And I see a lot of people go about it backwards. They think that, your tournament success and winning tournaments is going to help you get to that level. And that's maybe 1% of the professional. I'm talking professional bass boat guys. I have friends that fish the Elite Series and MLF, kayak fishing. that's 1% of the people are able to actually make a living tournament fishing. And even then they'll tell you that's not the way to do it. You have to have the business side of things lined up and squared away first. And that's kind of how I approached it from the get-go.
Yeah.
I remember looking into this whole scenario, and you're one of the main reasons I run an angler. I run a 360. When I saw you hopping around, jumping on the front, I was like, "What is that?" And so there was that, and you know what? I forgot what I was going to say there. Because I'm thinking about the angler and how she was hopping around all crazy on it,
and how you tried it and it didn't work out for you.
Well, no, not nearly as well.
I feel like I should have an asterisk and say that I'm 5'11", I weigh 135 pounds.
Yeah.
Don't try this at home.
Don't try this at home. But awesome.
No, well, as far as social media, I'll be the first to say, as humanity in general, I think we're better off without it.
100%.
But the caveat to that is that then this wouldn't be possible. A lot of the relationships I've built, and I'm sure with both of you, I mean, most of the people I talk to on a day-to-day basis, I haven't met in person yet, or met once or twice, but they're like people I talk to on a regular basis.
And that's you right there, Jay. You just nailed it. It's all about perspective. And I struggled with this for so many years because I was focusing on all of the heaviness of social media and how angry I was with social media and how much I think it's truly detrimental to society, not to mention young kids. But then, that is such a negative mindset. And what I've had to do is look at social media and find the joy in it, find the messages that you get, find the friendships that we've built, find the outlet, and just, again, we can either contribute negatively to this platform or we can be a light on this platform. So it's like, we live in a broken world. Does that mean we're going to hate every day of our lives because we are forced to live in this broken world where there's a lot of depravity and a lot of negativity? No, we're going to try our best to find the joy in it and find the positivity every day and be that light. And I look at social media the same way. And that is how I get through my days. It's just cultivating the gratitude for it and looking for the friendships, the conversation I get to have, meet, the amazing messages from daughters and dads about their daughters and young women that, that I get to read, that when I'm about this close to quitting and jumping off social media, I get another message or an email and I'm just, okay, I got to make it one more year for this little girl.
No, it is. And it is an interesting tool. And you have to be able to look at it that way, and you can utilize it for positivity. And like you said, be that example, because it's tough out here, man. And I know as a girl dad, it's big thing. It's a big thing to have an example for her to follow and things like that. So I know I appreciate what you do for sure.
I appreciate that.
So with the whole social media thing, how do you balance it? Because for full time, right? What you're doing, you're fishing tournaments, you're managing these sponsor commitments and relationships, you're doing all this social media event coverage because I've seen you at the Bassmaster events and everything. Like where's the balance for you, and how do you organize? I get lost in my own head with like the couple things I have to do around the house sometimes.
Yeah. Well, remember when I mentioned that I used to juggle like 2 to 4 jobs at a time? I've got a very ADD oriented mind, and I am running this thing up here runs 1,000 miles an hour, 24/7. And if you look at my calendar, it would stress any average person out. The balance is something that I was never good at. Now, the last couple of years, I've fostered a couple of habits that have helped me find a little better balance, but that evolves every single year as to what that balance looks like. And what a lot of people don't see, they see that I just get to fish full time, right? I'm out there fishing all the time.
Yeah, they see the highlight reel only.
They see the highlight reel. But the guys that my good friends that, I travel with to go to the tournaments, our little group that we travel with, people that know me on a very personal level, my very close circle, they see all of the work and the hours that go on behind the scenes, all the editing, all of the, the responding. Because there was a time there where I'm somebody, I'm always a yes person, and I'm definitely a people pleaser. I like to be as accommodating, and I spread myself so thin over a variety of things. But there was a point where I would feel really guilty if I didn't get back to every single message I got, to every single comment on every single platform.
Yeah.
And it started to get to a point where it was taking me, like, on our phone, so it'll tell us how much time we're on social media.
Yeah.
Mine would get to 6 to 7 hours a day.
Wow.
Answering comments and messages. And I looked at that, I said, I can't
It gets
do
consuming.
that. Yeah. And people don't, now, so now I've made it the last about 2 years, I've made it a habit to get on there. Cause I do, like, I want to engage. I get some amazing comments and I want to engage with the messages, and I make it a point to go in, occasionally respond to a few comments, but then I cut that off. And I've had people come up to me at shows, at the Classic or ICAST, and I've had a couple of them that are just very visually upset with me, and they vocalize how we've sent you, several messages, and one of these times we really appreciate if you got back to your fans. And I just wanted to tell it, and I said, I'm so sorry, but I just want to tell them I get 500 messages a day across all the platforms. I mean, I can't, I tried to keep up with all of that. And it's just one of those things that I don't think people understand how much of that goes, and how that does weigh on me too, because, I definitely am so appreciative of everybody that follows my journey and is so dang supportive, and I do my best, but I had to put some boundaries up there for me, because it was cutting into any of my, my personal time, which I rarely get. This is my first vacation all year, and I get like 5 days. So it's a learning thing.
Yeah, it is a lot of pressure, because I couldn't imagine being on your level. I mean, I'm on a very minute level, and it's just, and especially when you start getting, because the negativity is there as well. So you get a lot of that, and you have to kind of not really pay attention to it, because you have to kind of realize, hey, that has nothing to do with me. That's just those people kind of projecting and kind of, and so wow.
Yeah. Well, you got to learn when to respond and even not to respond, because that's what, so if someone says something stupid, you're like, I want to say something.
Yeah. I made all the wrong mistakes early on. I responded. I got in the keyboard fights, years and years and years ago. I was very, fueled that fire and partook in a lot of that negativity with people that would say things that I felt like that it was warranted a response by me, which it never was. I felt like I had to prove something. And, I would listen to some of those negative comments, but then again, it goes back to, I had a lot of growing to do, and I had to realize who I am and who I was created to be. And when you're secure and confident in that, our silence speaks volumes on things. And, not putting stuff online and just kind of staying away from that, and letting people, and realizing that you're right. When people are saying that, more times than not, that is a reflection of something that they're battling with. And we don't owe anybody a response on that.
No. Yeah.
But it took me a while. It took me years. I wish I would have. See, guys, I wish I was just wise a long time ago, but it took me a while to grow and learn, and I am thankful for it now. But
it's tough. I had one clip that went towards the 1 million mark, and
the viral ones always bring out the worst.
And you know what? And it was nothing but negativity, and it was hard to deal with, because at first I didn't really pay any mind to it, and then just one day it seemed like I started paying attention to the comments, and I took note of it, and I started getting in there, and then people started responding to me, and the next thing I know, and I had realized one day when, and it's like how you said, you were on your phone for 7-8 hours. You don't realize how consuming. This is actually what I was going to say earlier. You don't realize how consuming it is when you're kind of preoccupied, and you're on your way to do something, maybe to grab something in the kitchen, and you're looking down on your phone, and you're more preoccupied with what you're doing, and your food just got cold, or whatever the case is, because you're more worried about creating this. And my son was, dad, and my wife was like, dude, what do you? And I was like, oh, the guy. And I was like, what am I talking about, this guy? I put my phone away, and so
it hits you right there.
Thank God for the wise, bro. My wife does the same thing. She'll be like, yo, get off your phone, and I don't even realize I'm on it sometimes.
No, it's hard.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's hard.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
My kids actually come to say night now.
You have to adapt the Brian Nelly mentality. Have you guys seen his? He's pushing waters, kayak fishing. A good buddy of mine. He had that mega viral tarpon video where the tarpon jumped into his skiff, and I think he got 30 million views. Well, and they were all negative, all the comments, because it was tarpon mishandling, you know, even though he couldn't control what happened, the tarpon's flopping around on the boat and he got destroyed. But he probably made 10, 15 grand off that video.
Wow.
So it's, if you had, and that's another thing, a lot of people, I want to touch on that, is you don't have to have 200,000 followers to make a very good living on social media. Especially if you understand how to monetize on all the platforms and how long, you know, each video needs to be on each one to monetize it. Holy cow, you can make, it's blown my mind this year. If you have good content and put it out there, like I said, one video can make $10,000, $15,000 for that month.
Yeah, it's definitely about playing it smart. A lot of people do get caught up with the numbers game, but even like, it's just a vanity metric at this point.
100%. Yeah. It's crazy to me. I guess I'm kind of one of those very old souls that if Brad Pitt were to walk into the room, I genuinely would not care. I've never been someone that obsesses over any type of person with status or celebrity, nothing like that. And same with followings. You know, there's people that, and it blows my mind. People come up to me at boat ramps and they'll say, "Oh, you know, I follow you, I do this, but I don't have a following." And I'm like, I don't care. You're here talking to me. Let's have a conversation. You seem like a good person. You know, the following does not. It's nothing in the grand scheme of things. It really isn't.
Do you find it enjoyable when you talk to somebody who doesn't know who you are? When you run into because it's more genuine that way.
It's more genuine. I feel like they take me for who I am, and because when people see you online, it can go one of two ways. You know, they can have an inflated sense of confidence or ego with you because you have this big following, or they can just have this disdain for you because they're living, you know, people think that I'm living the dream they want to live, and they just kind of resent me for it. And I felt that, or again, I don't respond to their comments, so I must be stuck up. And I just, online, you don't ever get to really, is it as transparent as I always try to be. And I'm genuinely myself. I try to show the good, the bad, you know, my mess ups, all of it. So people see a genuine person there, but they still don't really know you. Right.
Yeah.
And so, I love when people take the time to actually have a conversation with me and get to know me first.
And I think something a lot of people don't consider is the perception aspect. If I draw a 6 on the ground and you're facing it from the other direction, you see a 9.
Yeah.
It's not that your perspective is wrong or what you're seeing is off. It's not that. It's just that your point of view, your perspective, or how you view the world around you is different. And so you're gonna have, and so it's funny because Jay had something happen a couple of weeks ago where somebody thought he was an industry shrill or shill.
Shill was the word. I had to look it up.
What does that mean?
I don't, no clue. But this person, I was like, Jay, I think you made it, because this guy came up with this whole narrative, perspective and understanding, and like envisioned this thing in his mind where he understood that Jay was like this industry plant trying to like input like information. I was like, this is crazy, Jay. We're getting somewhere now. It's happening. These people are, making stuff up in their own mind about what they think happens, and
that's when you've made it.
Yeah,
that's what everyone used to say to me. Oh, that's when you've made it. You've got some haters.
Yeah, man. It's like these people just fabricating this understanding about you, yet they've never met you. They've never no, they just know you through this screen, through what you've allowed them to see. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. So that was great. Thank you for sharing that, by the way. So let's talk about sponsors, because you touched on sponsors earlier, and I know that's a big part of making it in the industry. And obviously for funding, right? So what are some of your earliest sponsors that you can remember, and are you still working with any of those like day one sponsors?
Yeah, so my very first paid sponsor, I had 2. I think it was Plano, which I'm still with today, and Weston. And Weston I'm not with. They're a European kind of pike company, and I was with them for, I believe, one or 2 years, and that's when I was doing a lot of pike fishing. They were trying to break into the bass fishing space, but I remember them sending some of the bass stuff and it just was not translating. And I think eventually kind of pulled out of it. And so the fit obviously wasn't, I had moved to bass fishing, but yeah, that was quite a while ago. But most all of my partners, you know, I'm a very loyal person. Once I'm with one company, I really make it a point to try to grow with that company and stay with them. And you can do that when you're very selective right off the get-go. And I think that a lot of people, and I harp on this all the time, is people, if they have a company X that's like, hey, I'm going to give you $5,000 to partner with me. Sometimes people just see that number and they'll jump at it without one, getting to know the people with the brand, getting to know the brand's values, getting to know the brand's product. You know, it's for me, there are 3 big questions that I ask myself every time when I'm considering partnering with somebody. And I've never, ever, it takes me weeks, if not months, to make a decision. And this was even true back when I had no money and could have, you know, I remember turning down several deals over the years that would have been really helpful for me financially. But I knew, as hard as it was, they just did not align with the direction I wanted to go, because I wanted the longevity and not just the quick cash, if that makes sense. And that was huge in where I am today.
Yeah. A lot of those short-term mentality deals will kill the long-term like vision. And I mean, you already knew who you were in your head. You didn't want to get, you know, mixed up with these brands that just they weren't compatible.
Exactly. And that right there can be applied all across life. The short-term stuff rarely ever is our answer in anything. The easy, quick and easy.
No.
Wow.
So what are some of the hard no's when it comes to like when a sponsor reaches out to you? Like that you're just like, I'm not moving forward from this. Like right here, you know, whatever you read, you're just like, nope.
Well, I always look at the brand and their marketing, and you know what they're, like I said, again, their core values. You know, I want a company that, one, is big with conservation, that gives back, that has a good brand reputation. And I look at the people that they partner with, and what are those people's, like some of their top people, what are those people's reputations, or how do they carry themselves? Character is always big with me. Integrity is huge with me. And so if there's a brand that just is not giving me those vibes, and I kind of look at some of how they market, it just doesn't really align. You know, I'm trying to be as open, but you know, just you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just look at how they would want to portray me and work with me. You know, that's a big thing too. And luckily, you know, I haven't had too many hard no's. There's been a few of them over the years, but it's all about the people and who they are and who's working with the brand, and what type of message they're trying to push out there to their people. Because if I don't align with that, you know, I have to be able to go to sleep every night, right? And know that who I'm partnering with, you know, reflects the same values that I have. They're able to partner and give back. And that's another thing that I think people don't understand. You know, there's times where people will look at certain brands that, you know, rip off some, like a bait or two here or there, or, you know, have a product that was a total flop. And a lot of the pros that are associated with that get a lot of flack for it, right? But a lot of times what people don't understand is that it goes so much further. Of course, like the product, you know, I always want to make sure the product is good, and then I can use it and speak highly of it, at least the majority of it that I'm using. But more importantly than that, what I look at is, what does the brand do for the sport and its people? How much does it give back to the sport? And, you know, at the time, I had that women's nonprofit, that Women's Fishing Federation, that I co-founded with Amanda Brandon and Mel Isaacs. And I told my partners from the get-go how important that organization was to me. And all of my partners donated tremendously to that effort. And that was big for me. So they didn't just invest in me, they invested in something that I was passionate about and I believe very strongly in for our sport. So, you know, sometimes it's not just about, oh, you know, Mega Bass is the only legit brand out there, or, you know, the Shimano or G Lube. It's not always about that, because some of those companies don't have the same values that I would want to have, you know? So you got to look beyond the upper echelon of the products sometimes and look at who the people are behind it and what they do for the sport. it's a big multi-level deal.
Yeah.
How important are those relationships with those sponsors? I know, like somebody like myself, back when I was doing music, for instance, I didn't care to just throw somebody a lick of keys just because somebody was willing to pay for it or something like that. I wanted to get to know them as an artist, who they were, who their character was, and what they wanted to bring with this song or this production that they were trying to bring about. And forming a relationship with that person was important to me because yeah, that was just something I valued. Is that something that you look for, or is that something that you find is able to occur, or is it like more of a strictly business kind of thing, or is it more of a relationship?
You know, it all depends on the person. I think who you are, like you said. Me though, absolutely, 100% about the relationship, and that's why I set up multiple calls. I like to go and meet the people in person if I can, which I've done.
Yeah.
You know, most of the time I will fly out and have a in-person discussion, go out to dinner, meet them at ICAST, sit down at the Classic multiple times and get to know these people because if y'all can't tell, I'm a big people person. I genuinely care about people that I meet and just, I'm not a small talk person. If y'all ever encounter me at the ramp or out, I will cut straight to the deep depths of life, purpose, and passion. And I because I genuinely care and I want to get to know people on that level. And I think that tells me who you are and gives me kind of I love to learn about people and their backgrounds and everything. So yeah, with my partners, absolutely, because that's what a partnership to me is. It's not just business is business, but I love to get to know the people. Now that makes it very difficult when I end up leaving a company. I've only done that twice in 8 years, and it's two of the hardest, most difficult things I've ever had to do. Had to happen for growth and other things, but it makes it really, really hard when you do foster those deeper connections with the people at the brand. So
is it still all love at the end of the day?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most of them, the two for sure kind of understood, but why that had to kind of happen. You kind of, when you get to a point, you need to keep moving on. You start to outgrow certain things and need to have doors open, bigger opportunities. And as long as it aligns right, gotta do it.
So what advice do you have for people that are like on the up and up, trying to make this at least a part-time reality, for finding those types of partners that are not just these fly-by-night, come be my pro staff, here's a discount on some lures. So how do you, what advice do you have for finding those good partners?
The best thing that anybody can do is continue to look at it as, what can you do for those partners, and continuing to put out good content, tagging those people, and then going to the shows. Now here's the thing though. A lot of people think that like ICAST and the Classic are meant to go have those, they want to go and talk to the guys at the booth about sponsorship opportunity. Those guys get flooded with that. That is not really the place to do that, but it is the place to network and get to know those people and start the conversation of, hey, this is who I am, get to know them, form the friendships. Because at the end of the day, this industry truly is so much about networking. And I've seen more deals go down, after the people meet, like, oh yeah, we're going to dinner, then we're going to go out here afterwards. And then you'll just go and talk to those people. And that's when things can happen. And I think that, just again, being super selective and knowing, you need to know your value, but you also need to know that the people you're partnering with are people that it's more than just a paycheck. It has to be more than just a paycheck at the end of the day. But it's all about networking and putting consistent quality content out there. If you can build any type of a brand, if you've got something to show, if you're a guide business and you're having people use the product over and over again, having a good sales deck, I mean, all the things, just being a professional, and then going to the shows, the networking, just getting to know people without automatically asking for things is the key.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I love that you said the consistency, because it's more, we talked about how numbers are just a vanity metric, but consistency is not. People will see beyond the 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 subscribers. If they see that you post irregularly, or the content is sketchy, the appearance is sketchy, but if they see that consistent value that you're putting out, that's definitely more important.
Yeah. And Jay, that's one thing that immediately I was so impressed by you. And we did that podcast on KBN, just and I actually listened to the one I reached out to you after, the one that you did before you and I were on together about the YouTube reviews and channels. And I learned so much. You were just a wealth of knowledge on all of that. And I found that truly fascinating. You just kind of understood that business side so well and delved into it on a deeper level than even I have on that YouTube front. So listening to people like you that have that extra knowledge that can help give you that step up, that was really beneficial for me.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think, and I really enjoyed like that business side of things. So that's why I'm glad that you're sharing that. It's, you know, because with any business that you try to, if you're an entrepreneur, like you go in because it's the thing you love, but then you find out that there's a lot more things you have to do, you know, because then you're an accountant, you're a bookkeeper, you're a social media, you know, X, Y, and Z. So
start saving all the receipts.
Yo, for real.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. If you, so I want to help as many kayak anglers as I possibly can be able to do this and get opportunities. I think the best way to do it, and you do not have to have a huge following for this, is if you understand how to use like your Amazon links or your storefront links or any of that, and do your reels and get people to buy product off of your reels, off of your TikToks. You can, that's all stuff that you can go and take to then sponsors. But not only that, you're making commission on all of that then.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I've delved into just a tiny bit, but I've seen people that are making a killing just doing very basic gear stuff and putting links up in very, very small followings, but they're making money just selling product. And then that is something that sponsors say like, oh, I sold, 500 packs of your baits off this video. And that's something that's going to catch eyes. And that's something you don't have to have any sponsors. You don't have to have to do. You can start building your business on your own because of social media, and all of these apps allow you to sell product through them off of your videos.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's a hustle, but goodness, you could make a full-time living doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And people don't know, and it's probably because of, like just the assumptions of you need this to be successful in social media. You can have that small following and earn, and you brought up the Amazon associates. That's a huge thing. And I made one video 2 years ago for, what was it, 25 favorite kayak fishing accessories, just on a whim. I didn't think much of it. That video's probably made me more than $5,000. Just all I was doing was going through stuff I had on my kayak already.
Yes.
And then I posted all the Amazon affiliate links, which it's free and anyone can become an affiliate.
Exactly.
On Amazon.
That's, you have to think outside the box. And it's one of those things that I've always been thankful, because I read a lot. I was like I had a 6-year-old mind when I was 18 years old. I was reading all these finance books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I just had a very, I had a brain for that type of stuff. And I always looked at how can I make, how many different irons can I have in the fire, and how many different sources of revenue can I create from what I'm doing, and how can I get my money to start passively working for me? So how can I monetize this several different ways? And I've always been wired like that. And that's literally been the key, is just working and looking at and hustling and looking at how many different ways I can make all this happen, to where if my sponsorships leave, I have social media money coming in. If that starts to fail, I've got sponsorships. If that starts to fail, I've got my rental property. If that starts to fail, I've got these affiliate links, or I've got this. You have to have multiple sources of things coming in. And that's just how you build a successful business.
Yeah. You got to hustle.
Yeah. And it's kind of ironic too, because when we kind of go back to that topic on, how do we feel about social media? It's one of those things, because as an influencer or as an enthusiast or something like that, we need it in a way for that monetization, for these affiliate links, for you know what I mean? So it's kind of like being able to look at it as a good tool and doing all that, changing your perspective, and staying away from the haters is definitely the way to go.
Because you gotta remember, the haters they're hating because they're not willing to do what you're doing.
And they hate us because they ain't us.
That's exactly it. Jay, how many people hated on YouTube 7 years ago, and made fun of people for having YouTubes? All those people have YouTubes now.
Yeah, that's right. But I want them to comment, because the engagement drives up the algorithm.
Yes.
So keep commenting.
Yep.
Where's this? Oh, so next question. We're talking about social media. We talked a little bit about sponsorships, what are some of the biggest challenges in either one of those arenas or outside of that when it came to fishing full time that you face professionally? Like some of the challenges, either the tournament side, the social media side, or like maybe some of the sponsorship side.
Well, I think we kind of touched on a little bit of the social media side. That, you know, the negativity was, and luckily for me, I don't experience a ton of it. I feel pretty fortunate. I think that because I tried to do things the right way from the get-go and earn, you know, as much respect as I can by marketing myself in the most respectful way I possibly could from the get-go, and not taking the easy, you know, overnight fame deal. I think that helped, but there was still some negativity, especially on the tournament side. You know, when I started having success, I got accused of cheating by so many random internet trolls because it had never, a female never won a kayak fishing tournament, a big one, never even got a top 3 at one of them. So that, you know, that was really, really, really difficult. And with this, one of the things with the sponsorships is I learned that it's very important to keep your business, especially your financial business, to yourself. And I know a lot of people have made this mistake. And I learned that, you know, I'd be very excited about a big opportunity I got, and I'd want to tell, you know, I had a very large group of friends, and I'd want to talk about it, and it would almost turn into a little bit of mixture of just jealousy and resentment, and people thinking that, wow, you got that. Like I've been fishing longer than you, or I've got a better tournament resume than you. I should get that. It was
yeah.
So I learned very quickly that I kept my financial business to myself and keep that very private, because you don't ever want to put your friends in a situation, or you don't want to put that stuff out there. It shouldn't be public knowledge, you know, what you're getting and what deals you're getting with certain people. And that was a thing early on that I learned. It you know, when my stuff started getting shared everywhere, and people started promoting me, I had a lot of friends, and even the kayak fishing space, that I could tell kind of resented me for that, because my stuff was getting blown up. And I was like, it's because I'm a female, you know, it's because I'm a girl that definitely, I'll never say that just does not play a role, because anytime there's a rarity, there's going to be extra spotlight on that. But what those people, I despise that just as much as everybody else does. You know, when I got 3rd at the Kentucky Hobie Bass Open on Kentucky Lake like 7 years ago, and it overshadowed the guy that won, people don't know how upset I was at that they were wanting to do the stories on me and not the guy that won the tournament. That devastated me, but I couldn't control it. There was nothing I could do about that. That was really challenging. Just dealing with a certain level of success is always going to bring out a lot of challenges, and it's gonna almost isolate you from a giant portion of your peers, because you're at a level that they're not. And that has been really hard for me. And it almost makes people look at you differently. You know, like you're over here and you're on this other level than them. And that's not at all what I want anybody thinking, because I don't see myself that way. But that was one of the toughest things, is when you kind of get to that space. My circle had to get a lot smaller, which was hard, you know?
Yeah. 2 questions real quick. I just want to write this one down because how my mind works.
You're going to forget in like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
That's me too.
It's horrible, man. Okay. So, all right. So real quick, touching on, all right. So I could do that one later. How do you feel that changes? Like, do you, because I tend to notice that at times too, through many different things. I mean, it happened growing up in school with, you know, just getting more eyes on me because I played the piano or whatever the case was. And in your case with the rarity, like you say, how do you deal with that shift and that change? And like when you notice it, like, you know, how do you move? Do you acknowledge it? Do you kind of just, you know, as a people person?
Yeah. So right off the bat, I don't think I handled it, you know, years and years and years ago. I don't feel like I handled it well, because I took a lot of things personally, and it hurt me when people, you know, I found were angry that my stuff was getting shared and theirs wasn't, and they should have, you know, it hurt because I, you know, considered some of these people to be really good friends of mine, and I just didn't understand it. And I took it very personally. And I've since learned that, you know, when that shift happens and there is kind of that perception, to navigate it with a lot more empathy and grace for not only for everybody else, that's, you know, the ones that are kind of doing the comments, but for myself in that as well. And, you know, again, fewer words and just sitting back before reacting and acting on it, and knowing who you are, and nonstop making sure that you humble yourself. I'm so quick to, you know, anytime I start thinking that I need to justify something or, you know, justify myself to somebody else, I humble myself very quickly on that. And that's been one of the most important things for me. And I try to look at where everybody, and I probably, this is something maybe I shouldn't do, but I always try when people are, you know, making these comments or doing these things or wanting to tear down the person that's successful, I always try to look at where they're coming from. And that's that empathy that I have. And I try to, you know, when you maybe shouldn't reason with someone that's got a negative mindset, I always just try to look at where they're coming from and do my best to always, you know, humble myself, show them kindness regardless of what's going on. And what's been a really beautiful thing for me to see is that, you know, even in this year, I've had instances where I've walked into situations knowing that there's a group of women or a group of people that have this certain perception of me out of probably jealousy. And I go into it, I've gone into it with a very open, humble mindset and getting to know them and going up to them, knowing they probably, you know, have a perception of me, and just having a conversation. And that I've
kind
seen
of breaking that.
Yes. And breaking that, you know, and showing them, you know, that's not, that it doesn't have to be like that. So I think we think about ourselves more than people think about us sometimes, you know, if people are talking about us or thinking negatively about us. A lot of times I'll just go up to the people and just literally show them who I am. And try to get to know them, and always humble yourself.
Definitely.
It's on the hat.
Real
Be
quick.
humble.
Go ahead.
I see that. I love that.
So I don't know if Jay, did you have a different particular question you wanted to ask before I ask this? All right.
No, you're good. But hold on, before you say that though, I just want to give two quick shout outs, bro, because we got a couple super chats. Lucas from the Outdoor Conquest, bro, we miss you. Kristine Lucas used to be like one of the main co-hosts with us at the beginning of the year.
I'm looking at his picture. Is that an elk?
Yeah. And he's a huge muskie fisherman in Lake St. Clair.
Yeah.
He lands some monsters.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's super cool.
Yeah. So shout out to Lucas. Appreciate you, bro. And also USA Kayak Fishing Magazine dropped a super chat for $1.99.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, bro. And Kristine, he said he wanted to get you on the cover of the magazine. So you guys could figure that out.
Oh goodness.
He'll hit you up.
Also, real quick,
I have to brush my hair for that.
thank you to Anthony giving me some love on the acceptance to the Pan American team.
Yeah, Juan's he's on the delegate team for Team Puerto Rico, Kristine, by the way. So
so pretty excited. Yeah, pretty excited about that. Yes, but cool. All right. So did you always know how to catch them the way you do, or what did it take you to learn to catch them the way you do now?
Oh, so remember when I said humble yourself? So I'm going to be fully transparent on that. There are two ways to learn how to catch them. No, the quick answer is no, I did not. Now, one thing I was always good at just from growing up, my brother and I would have casting contests, throw on daredevils and little crevices in the rocks and stuff. So my mechanics were always, I thought, pretty good. But I grew up in Nebraska and I didn't bass fish. You know, I did, but I was a muskie pike angler. That's all I wanted to do. And when I fished my first bass tournament, all I knew how to throw was a jig. I had one rod. I threw a jig and pig on it in Nebraska, and that was really it. And I quickly learned that when I would travel, I went down to Texas for my first big tournament, and I zeroed on Lake Fork, and it was a very humbling deal. So, but that also motivated me to learn everything I could. So the two things I did, and anybody will tell you this, is that I started traveling to very diverse fisheries, and I would take myself out on the water and try to learn everything I could. But what helped me with that learning curve even more is surrounding myself and being a sponge around some of the best anglers in our sport. I remember sitting with Jody Queen years and years ago, and just hearing him talk about how he broke down rivers. And I was just sitting there absorbing all of it. Jay Wallen was one of the ones early on, Jay and AJ. I remember sitting there, and Jay poured into me all kinds of winter fishing, A-rig stuff. I learned, and I just soaked all of that up. And then you've got Joseph Sanderson and G. I've learned more from those two. Oh my gosh. I mean, just watching, and Russ, Russ is one of my really good friends. Cody Milton is one of my really good friends.
Hammer.
And they're all so good. And I've learned, so I've noticed what I do is, over the years, early on, when I was trying to learn, I would just listen to the guys that caught them really well at the awards. I'd listen to what they did. I'd go up to them, just pick their brain on things. And then I would go out on the water, and I would start to not only, try some of the techniques that they were doing that I didn't have much experience with, but then I would start to kind of experiment with that on my own and try different spin-offs of those things in certain areas. And that's when I started taking that knowledge, going on the water, forcing myself to fish over and over and over again until I figured something out. Like if I had a bad tournament, Lanier, for example, several years ago, I did not get that fishery figured out. I listened to the awards, and I stayed that Monday and went back out there until I figured it out. And it all started to click for me. But surrounding myself with people early on and just listening, again, humbling yourself and listening to people that were much, much better than me, and then going out there and applying and just fishing and fishing and fishing, that helped me tremendously. And I'm lucky that, my peers early on just poured into me and wanted to help teach me everything and saw the passion that I had. And that's why when I'm fishing a tournament now, and when I'm doing my YouTube videos, anybody that runs into me on the water during a high level competition can attest to this. If they're struggling, I will take the time. I will tell them exactly how to catch them. I'll give them the baits they need to use, and I will do everything I can to where that person learns something that day, because people did the same for me a long time ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I feel like, and this is maybe just me personally, I feel like that's almost unique amongst the kayak fishing community. You don't get that same love from like the boat community.
The
boat community is very
those guys
reserved.
help each other, though. I mean, on the water, when I was marshalling on Wheeler, one of the guys pulled up to the guy I was marshalling for and was spinning out, and the guy I was marshalling for gave him a bait and said, I was going to go this next 100 yards. This is where you want to fish it. And you can probably get a limit right there during the tournament on the Elite Series event.
That's what's up.
Yeah. So I think the little groups, kind of help each other out a little bit. The traveling groups for the bass boat stuff a little bit. But I think our kayak fishing community, and that's why I love it. And that's why even though I got the bass boat, I'm never going to stop fishing kayak tournaments, because it is who I am.
Yeah. I was going to ask you that. Do you prefer? I guess you answer. You prefer kayak over boats?
I think you like the boat.
Oh, I do. I do love the boat. There's things I love about the boat, but I'm a kayak angler. I think the boat is just for me. I've been so comfortable in kayak fishing, and I've about accomplished everything in this sport that I think I can, aside from Angler of the Year, which hopefully this year I can do that. It's going to be really hard, but anyway, I just got really comfortable, and I'm not someone that likes to stay comfortable very long. That was that really shook things up for me. I don't have any boating experience, and the tournaments are a different level over there, but I think I needed it to stay. I'm always trying to continue to grow. So
it is different. I like the intimacy of the kayak. I have a John boat, and the John boat I was using for a little while because my kayak was out of commission. But once I got back on it that first time, and it was like 3 months without it. I was like, oh baby, there you are. It felt so good again to be back on the kayak and be that close to the water, and it just felt good.
Well, just the adventure aspect of it. I love the adventure that it brings, and the minimalism.
Pedaling yourself around and just kind of, not really stressing it. You're not going out there for anything other than the experience. Whether you catch one, it's whatevs. And then when you do, it's good. So it's the bonus. Yeah.
It's cool. So I got one more question for you, unless you have something else you want to add. But first, I want to give shout out to Real and Roll, dropped a super chat. He said, thank you, Kristine, Jay, and Juan for everything you do for fishing in our community. He's got, if you guys don't subscribe to him, you guys check him out. Real and Roll. He got some really good stuff on there. So I appreciate you, bro. Thank you. So there's a good question about imposter syndrome. Let's see, Anthony Laterno. He asks, he's like, do you struggle with imposter syndrome in your profession? Are you familiar with imposter syndrome?
I think for the most part I am.
Okay.
But you can.
So imposter syndrome is, and it's something that I know because I struggle with it too. It's when you think you don't deserve to be in the spot you're at, or you're low. You think of yourself less than you actually are, right? You question your abilities. Yeah, all that.
Yeah,
I always have to real quick right before you answer. I always have to. Me and Jay will dialogue. We always talk, but there's a few times where like we'll be catching up, and he'll kind of like, and I'm like, Jay, I don't know if you're looking at this from the outside in, and I kind of have to like put his mind back on straight again, because his mind starts to wander, because naturally he's worried about all the right things. Absolutely, 100%. He's worried about all the right things, but at the same time, I kind of have to show him like, yo, look what you've been doing, and look where it's gotten you. So maybe don't trip so much, maybe get out of your head a little bit and kind of come back. Yeah, sometimes, but he's, look at what he's grown.
It puts me in check. Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. It's even given me opportunity. Like I have no bark or bone in this. I don't help him shoot any of his videos. I have nothing. He's just allowed me to come along and enjoy this opportunity and journey, man. So yeah. So thank you, Jay. Yeah, but go ahead. So yeah, I don't want to stop the question from being asked. So this imposter syndrome.
That's what I thought the context of that was. I just wanted to verify. Whoa,
you're good.
Oh, where'd it go?
I felt something fell on my side. I almost grabbed air.
Got motion sickness there. Anyway, yes. So yeah, the short answer to that is yes. There are so many times where I struggle with that. I struggle with the level of success that I've got, and I sometimes have those things creep in, like, do I deserve this? And more importantly, I'm somebody again that feels the weight of the world a lot. And when I say that, what I mean is, I look at things from a deeper level. I purpose, and I look at gravity in our world, and I look at some big heavy issues like child trafficking and these epidemics that are going on, and I get really in dark places with that, and think that I am literally living my dream, and there's millions of people suffering. I don't deserve this. Why am I here? I've literally battled with that. Like, I'm not doing enough. And it's I remember having to listen to I was talking to a good friend of mine back home about this, and saying, like, I don't deserve to be here. I don't know, why was I chosen to do this? Why am I here? I feel like I should be going and doing all of these things for look at these kids. It's like right when the Sound of Freedom movie came out. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but very powerful documentary on that. And she sent me a sermon, and it was basically saying, not all of us, we're not always called to put on armor and go to the front lines of battle and these major world problems, but we can make an impact on the level that we're at. And a lot of times I've always said, always struggled. Like, I have such a big picture vision, and helping on a global level, not just a small level. But a lot of times when we try to focus on this big global thing and this bigger than us thing, we're not making an impact where we can make the biggest impact. And that's right here with people closest to us, and our family and our close friends. So yeah, there's times where I've really struggled with where I'm at. And because when people come up to me and say that, they treat me like I'm this just really remarkable person, I don't see myself like that. Or they treat me like I'm almost not normal. Like I'm as of celebrity status, and I will never see myself like that. So I've always struggled with that. I don't think I'll ever get comfortable with that, because I don't think that what I'm doing is anything, brilliant or groundbreaking, if that makes sense. So yes, for sure. But I've had people all throughout my life, and every time I think of that, I'm reminded that even before I did any of this, I did a lot of solo travel. And I remember one thing that I'll never forget. because it's just who I've always been. I was on a small bus in the middle of fall going to Zion National Park. I did a lot of solo travel, so I was by myself, and there was a guy on the bus, older guy, and I just, like I do, I started a conversation, and it got to a very deep level conversation, and I could tell he wasn't in a good place, but I just imparted a little bit of the wisdom I had at 25 years old at the time, which was probably not a lot, but it was enough to where, and I told him, where I worked and what I did. He sent a letter to my Pilates studio and with a fly, because he saw I had a hat with a fly on it. And he just said that I won't probably ever understand the impact that I had on him in that bus in Zion. And he wished me the best. And it was just really heartfelt note. No return address. Never heard from him again, never saw him again.
Wow.
But we have it just reminded me that, where again, it's so important to remain humble, but don't discredit who you are and what you can do and the amount of joy you can bring to somebody's life. And just by being who you are, and even with something as simple as kayak fishing.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And you're so right, because I grew up a church boy, so I've had a lot of deeper connections with folk, and so and when you're older and things happen and you can't really attach yourself to that as much, it's just nice because this community allows for deeper human connection. It allows for these moments on the ramp, time out on the water, and it's dope, man. It's like yeah, and it's so easily attainable to everybody, man. And it's just, man, I love it. I love these kind of things. This was so
no, thank you. Thanks for sharing that, Kristine, because it's about how you feeling with the human trafficking like epidemic, and because I'm the same way. And like for me, my platform is, and I don't know how God's gonna use it yet in this way, but or through this manner. But like for me, fostering and adoption is like top tier, and that's because it's part of my story. Like we've been foster parents since 2016. We fostered 7 kids over the course of, I don't know, six years, and then our daughters that we adopted, 2 years ago, came from the foster system.
Oh, so like, God, I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So we want to somehow like harvest all this into a way that benefits, brings awareness to that, and that goes hand in hand with human trafficking, because the foster system and human trafficking.
It's yes, and just like you said, if you were to focus all your efforts on this big global thing and this epidemic, you wouldn't be able to make the impact that you are right now to the lives of your daughters, the people that you fostered. And that's something that is so important to remember, because like I said, I felt so dang guilty that I wasn't on the front lines and on this big thing, pouring all my efforts, all my time, all my money into that. And we forget that sometimes we're where we need to be, and the people that we can make the bigger impact on is right here in our circle. Yeah, that's really cool, Jay.
We can all make an impact one way or another, and even if it's just that friendly hi on the bus, or like smiling at someone, you don't know if that's the only smile they've seen all day.
Yes, that it's like sometimes we don't have to give people, save their life or do something grandiose in that regard. It's something, it really is just as simple as a compliment, a smile, a hug, something nice, and that can change the course of somebody's entire day, week, life. You just don't ever know.
And I think, like, so as somebody who's now like in a small position of, I guess you could say, leadership or a point of example, I don't know, because I don't want to make anything of it, but I do want to point out, and this is something I don't know if anybody wants to carry with them, but it is a little bit of a sacrifice, because your energy introduces yourself. You know what I'm saying? So go out there and just, you may not even be up for it. You may not even be feeling it that day, but somebody may need that little bit of positivity, that little bit of, and you'll never know. You know what I'm saying? Once you just, it's a flip of the switch. Happiness is a choice. I always tell people happiness is a choice, because when you're anticipating something that hasn't come yet, you're so excited for it. Even though it hasn't come to pass, you're thrilled about it. And then if something happens and the circumstances changes, you get all bummed out. And it's like, for what? for something you never obtained in the first place.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, I know a lot of times we all trip. So, at the end of the day, man, just just try to throw out that good energy, man. Life is real, it's happening to everybody. But at the end of the day, your energy is gonna speak for you. So get that in
100%.
check, man, and make sure you get right with people when you see them out there. Throw them a smile.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
good.
thanks, bro. Okay, I lied. Last question, Kristine.
Let's go.
Just because people are gonna want to know what's next for you. So what's next for this next season? Like, what are you looking forward to?
Jay, I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. What do you mean next season? Oh boy, yeah, I'm not a planner, y'all. I'm not. Anyway, I got the boat, obviously. I will be fishing. I think there's going to be some changes to the opens. I've heard rumors.
Mhm.
I will definitely be fishing at least a division, so at least 3 of those. But I will do as many of the bass kayak and bass, Hobie bass, just for AOI requirements. I probably won't fish all of them. I didn't fish all of them this year. I kind of cut back a little bit, but I'm trying to find some balance in my life, and I'm going to do a couple of the LBAs, the all women's boat tournaments, just because from a mentorship role, I loved being able to coach my co-anglers and spend time with them. That was such an amazing experience for me. But my main goal is to spend more time at home in Tennessee.
Awesome.
Fishing local and maybe doing a couple local tournaments and just being home. Maybe I'll get a garden. Who knows?
Do you ever do a random pop-up at any tournaments?
So I did. I went to the paddle and fin one at Dale Hollow, and I really enjoyed that. Again, sometimes it's hard for me because people make a big deal out of it, and I don't want them to, because I really am. I'm a closet nerd, and I'm so dang goofy. Like, I'm not that cool of a person.
Yeah.
I just want people to remember that. But I do kind of want to do that. I love fishing the kind of the local tournaments. They just are a really refreshing vibe, and I love to meet the people that do them.
Real quick, so I remember when I first dated my wife and I got with her, and I didn't know how popular she was, and like I was trying to do music a little bit, and like I was getting like a lot of little shares and stuff, nothing much. But then I would be out somewhere and they'd be like, "Oh, hey, how you doing, Juan?" I'm like, "Huh?" And they're like, "Yeah, you're Nikki's husband, right?" And yeah, you do the music. And I'm like, yeah, who are you?" And it was like at times it would get uncomfortable because I'm not there. Sometimes I'm, I got something going on here. I'm not really in the mood to really talk to somebody, and then somebody catches you off guard, and you're like, do you find yourself you got to put like a guard on, or like a kind of like a mental uniform on to kind of like, and remind yourself when you leave the house, like that you're somebody,
Well, we're all somebody, right?
We're all somebody. Yes, absolutely.
Somebody who's somebody.
Yes.
You gotta remember.
Yeah.
Okay. No, bro. Do you have anything you want to add, Kristine?
All I want to add is that was such a great conversation, and I want to thank the 2 of you for not only having me on, but for indulging in that level of conversation with me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, crazy.
Awesome. No, thank you for coming on. I remember I told Juan, I was like, I'm gonna reach out to Kristine and see if she wants to come on. It was after we did the podcast for KVN.
Yeah.
And I was like,
and I love that so much. I was like, yeah, let's keep it rolling, Jay. Let's do one.
I love those episodes. You guys do the best on those episodes, giving all that feedback.
That was so much fun. And like I said, I have a YouTube, but I don't know much about YouTube. So I'm sitting here, like, I can give my feedback and stuff, but I'm sitting here listening to Jay spit some knowledge. And I'm like, ooh, yeah, this is good.
I pick up a lot up from that show.
Yeah, I love those. I hope they do.
Jeff had showed us before we went live the amount of tabs he had open to try to go through all those channels. We maybe went through like a quarter of those.
I know. See, he should have, like, they should make that. They should have us on like monthly for that.
Yo, seriously.
Yeah, I think so. It's very productive.
Yeah, because think of how many kayak people are starting YouTubes now, and I think just having a fresh perspective and set of eyes on that is huge. There's a lot of value to it.
I think too, like with the way things flow, like with social media and the way things change, we could all kind of say, hey, this, I'm noticing this isn't working as well anymore, or because this stuff evolves.
Yeah,
every day.
It really does. Yeah,
it's hard to keep up with.
So
these algorithms do their own thing.
Yeah,
I
always
know.
trying to beat the algorithm. All right, so let's get into the funny or crummy segment.
Real
Before
quick,
we do
before
that,
the snack.
was that
The snack.
what snack? Oh,
Oh, we gotta find
so
out the favorite
You guys
okay.
snack.
got snacks? I love snacks.
Yeah,
So,
so the show
dude, I
that
forgot.
I was waiting for it all show. I
Damn,
was
bro.
wondering.
So that's usually like my top
Very
two
first question.
questions, first or second question. I always like to ask, like, what's your favorite snack when you're out fishing?
Oh, I don't eat when I'm fishing.
Ever?
Oh.
No, not usually. I mean, no. Sometimes if I go to the gas station, if I'm going out for the afternoon, they've got like the chicken fingers, and I'll take barbecue sauce and ketchup and mix it together. That's kind of and then I'll leave it on the front of my kayak so it gets warm in the sun and probably gets a bunch of bacteria on it. I do
Yeah.
that sometimes, but yeah, I'm really bad about eating on the water.
Wow.
So do you just eat before or after?
Both.
Okay.
Do you hydrate? You drink a lot of water?
No, but that's another goal of mine. I'm working on that. I've been so bad. I used to get really bad migraines quite frequently, and I really think it was because I wasn't drinking enough water out there. And I carry a Celtic salt with me now. Do a little Celtic salt, and then I'm trying to get better about drinking water this year. It's a goal.
Gotcha.
My wife always carries one of those big Stanleys.
Yes, those are so good.
Yeah, every time I see her with one, I just yell at her, "Water makes you hotter," because I saw that on the reel.
It does. You're not wrong.
All right, so that we got the snack thing done. Thank you, Juan. We got
no worries.
so
and there was a few good jokes.
Segment, yeah, before we get into that, thank you to our premier sponsor, Lead Time. If you guys are in the market to upgrade your battery, if you have a seal lead acid, AGM, or you just need a new lithium battery, make sure you check out Lead Time. They got tons of new offerings, 12 volt, 24 volt. They even got 36 volts. So if you're running a big motor, you need a 36 volt battery, check out Lead Time. It's leadtime.com and use the discount code BDF6 for 6% off the entire order. So the funny or crummy segment is where we go over the submitted dad jokes, and then you gotta say if it's funny or crummy. But even if it's a crummy dad joke, it's still a good dad joke because that's the way dad jokes
are good dad jokes.
Yeah.
There was a few that popped up during the show that I had to like bite my lip on, and like two or three of them, I looked right at Jay as they popped up because I'm waiting for him to smirk so I could smirk too. But, he held his ground. I was like, oh, he got a good poker face because I was like, that's funny.
Yeah, well, the number one provider of dad jokes for us is Cotton Candy Kayak. So appreciate you, bro. He dropped a $4.99 super sticker. So thank you. We're gonna go through some of his dad jokes for sure. So Ryan Fuller was the first dad joke. He said, "Do trees go poo? How else would we get number 2 pencils?"
Okay, all right now.
My favorite.
I'll drink some water for that one. Hold on.
All right, Cotton Candy Kayak. What fish performs operations?
A sturgeon.
Ray Johnson. Did you hear about the guy who's afraid of hurdles? He got over it.
Okay. All right.
My guy. All right. Let's see. Grimy fishing. I made a belt out of watches. It was a waste of time.
That one's kind of witty. I like that one.
Yeah. Okay.
Another one from Cotton Candy Kayak. Why don't fish ever tell dad jokes? Because they don't want to flounder. All right, Jonathan K. What do fish say when they swim into a wall? Damn. I love the fish ones. They're like my favorite. Oh, this one's a good one. What do you call a fake koi fish? A decoy.
Okay. I like that.
That's creative. I like that one.
That's good.
Yeah.
I like
that. All right. Let's see. Another one from Ray Johnson. Did you hear about the fire at the shoe factory? Unfortunately, many souls were lost.
Okay.
One more. Last one here from Jonathan. He says, what's the best way to communicate with a fish? Drop it a line.
That's right, baby.
Yo, that's a lot of good ones today.
Yeah.
I think it's because Kristine's on that. We got a lot. Usually we get like 2 or 3. I got 13.
How do you organize a space party?
Ooh, how?
You plan it.
Oh,
whoa, that's a good one.
That's good.
Yo, she came with the dad joke on deck.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's fire.
Plan it.
I feel like that. If anyone can take anything from what I've said today, it's that.
That's the key. That's the one right there.
Yeah.
How do you organize a space party?
You
plan it. That's a good one. I'm saving that. I'm gonna get that tattooed on my arm. All right.
yeah.
Anything else, Kristine, before we log off? I want to say thank you for coming on to the show. Juan and I both love watching your videos since even before I was on a kayak, dude. You've been like your storytelling's on point, your content's on point. Obviously, you drop them bags. So we appreciate you coming on and taking the time to share with us.
Yeah, and thank you.
It's all mine.
Thank you for getting deep with us. Thank you for getting real with us. And I appreciate you.
Yeah, Anthony said though that's the first ever guest contributed dad joke.
Yeah.
Okay,
you hold that title.
I'm honored, but y'all need to make that a requirement of this show that the guests need to bring their dad joke.
All right, we'll do that now.
They can't come on otherwise.
No.
Okay.
All right.
Wow.
So again, thank you so much, everyone watching. Appreciate you guys. We got the next episode is going to be September 15th. We're talking to Chase Carlock from Southwest Indiana Outdoors, and we're chatting about fatherhood and how to make time to fish in the busyness of life and parenting. So make sure you guys join us September 15th. Kristine, thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate y'all too. Keep doing good things.
All right.
We will. Hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yep. Peace and God bless.